maybe I would like to send you a few messages to open this topic. And the first message is also for you people who are in charge of BuildInterest, okay, for the different platforms. Because my first statement would be that you should not consider the existing or new building sector globally as only one sector, but have a differentiated approach as regard each segment. More or less, we should consider as if we would have 5 different markets, at least for France. So individual private housing, collective private housing, social housing, and public tertiary buildings and private tertiary buildings. The motivations to go into the process of a project, the way different professional actors are organized together to orchestrate the market, the different levels and breaks are different. Okay, this would be my first point. Okay, my second point is that we are all talking about energy efficiency. At least in our countries, energy in many occurrences is not a sufficient driver so that people enter into investment processes. Maybe it's too not expensive enough, maybe it's not known enough about it, and so on. And what you are trying to implement at the government level, also at every stakeholder level, is to renew the way we consider how we should market renovation. Not only speak about energy or energy bill or energy efficiency, but also mobilize all other possible motivation sources for people. Comfortable way of life, style of living, aesthetic of the place you live in, green value, the value of the assets, and so on. And on the other hand, consider all the moments in the life cycle, either of an owner or a building, when people do works, and in these occurrences, do what we call embark energy performance works as a complement of aesthetic works, redecoration, and so on. Let's say it's a more modest approach, but that seems to us to have some potential to develop the market. Okay, this would be my second point. I a whole list, I know. This is a very elaborate roundtable. Okay? And second point, when you talk to people about improving energy performance, they are very afraid, oh, I don't have enough money, the bankers will not lend money to me, and so on. So you must help them to enter the topic by making all the progress you can do without heavy investment. Use the building in a way that is consistent with the ways that the technical installations are fine-tuned and piloted and set up. And after that, improve repair and maintenance, which is absolutely not a mediatic part of the job, because it's better to cut the ribbon. I thought it's good to make the works, and then the poor guy is doing the repair and nothing works after that. Okay, so do all this, not only quick wins, but these deep wins that are not connected to big investments. People will be more accustomed to the energy topic, and we have some gain and maybe some beginning of a budget to invest. Okay, and also you must take into account all the people like we see all the big tertiary building actors who have many buildings, how help them to master their properties. They are overwhelmed with invoices, data, actions to lead, problems of competence to understand what's happening in their buildings. So how can you summarize it, make it ergonomic, and include maybe artificial intelligence to prepare decision making and so on. And basically to finish my point, to come back to works in individual housing and so on, act on every possible leverage to improve the customer experience. Better price, so develop platforms for purchasing, develop platforms for a better organization in the projects, make people visualize, have a vision of what will happen in their home after the works, and master performance, calculate performance, guarantee the performance so that people have something concrete to rely on. There are many possible ways that are a more modern way to enter the market for a private stakeholder.
Thank you, Jean. Who concurs? Who wants to react? Lucien?
I'm sitting next to you. Just to add a few, because I completely agree. But the last few years we tried to, or at least we invested in almost 60 innovative products and services for smart buildings, and we learned a lot. And all of it is true, and all of it is very important. But just to add a few, awareness is one. A simple, well, real estate owners, the big real estate owners, a bit higher, the big real estate owners, they know what is available, and they know how to select the best innovation for their system, for their building. The smaller real estate owners, especially for the residential buildings, they are not aware. They don't know where it is and which one to select and which one to trust, actually. Trust is the second issue. Especially internationalization. It was mentioned several times during the pitches. And then trust is extremely important. We trust the partner around the corner, the installer around the corner, who speaks the same language. So how to deal with that one, partnerships, etc., etc., etc. So awareness, trust. Another one is references. If you already have implemented it in, for example, in the Netherlands, that's nice, and everyone in the Netherlands trusts a Netherlands or a Dutch building. In France, it's a bit different. Then we say the building is different, our tradition is different, our legislation is different. So you need actually references across Europe.
I should say,
you go.
You say you need some, I agree with what you said, you need some references, and in my opinion the mistake we make is that we try to show the skyrocketing reference, and people need the nearest to them reference with something current solution that is not full of subsidies and not scary because it's too complex.
Okay. Yep.
Sebastian, maybe?
Yes, to add a perspective. I'm working for a company, Greenflex, that has energy efficiency service among our project. One big project we're carrying is developing into France the energy sprung approach that deals with that massification of deep energy retrofit. It starts in Netherlands through a green deal process that we mentioned previously, and that it targets at developing a market for net zero energy retrofit in social housing. Experience we have with that are interesting in the perspective that it's complicated to introduce in the market. We try to be these market activators. Obviously, there are three main issues to deal with, which is having a demand. With no demand, you're stuck nothing. Having an offer up to the standard of the demand, of course, finance. That the three main topics to deal in parallel, but not one before the others. Maybe there was in some market initiative where that was like first the finance and the offer not being ready yet and doesn't work. I mean, you can add more fuel into the vehicle. If there's no motor in the vehicle, doesn't work. So even if you put a lot of fuel, so the issue is really as the motor is demand, to have an offer quality enough for a demand to offer. An experience we have in this program and why we ask only for net zero energy retrofit is at some point there have been some poor trust quality issues in the market. So if you want to go beyond this mistrust, you have to do something radical in matter of quality, radical in matter of user experience. And that's why this target is to have both net zero energy demand. I mean, it's like in food. Who would want produce with 20% less pesticides? No, there's a market for zero pesticide, that's called organic, and you have a 30% premium price, but there's no market between normal and zero pesticides.
It's a good comparison.
And the thing is, same thing. I mean, there will be no market for minus 23% energy efficiency, minus 37, no. There will be a market for net zero energy retrofit. And that's a target which is simple. Because ask my grandma, she doesn't know what is square kilometer per year of primary energy bill. Okay, zero energy, she gets what that means, even if she knows nothing about kilowatt hour. So we have to have something simple for people to get what that is, and also to simplify the offer. Because, okay, you don't need to do 5 different things. I mean, that's your own business, do it, but in the end, the promise will be simple and very ambitious. So for an offer to happen and a market to happen for private players, dare to be ambitious, because there will be nothing between normal and high value. I mean, that's my opinion. Then what we have, and that's also the issues, it's nice to say that if we don't want just 20 prototypes where we have fun, which are net zero and we're a massive market, we have to grow this demand. That's also the work we're doing, and we have large set commitment, because we have people that might be willing to develop solution and a cocktail of solution made up of a solution of startup A, startup B, and works of a classical and traditional construction company that will integrate and embed all of these solutions. But for that, yeah, you have to have large volume scales, because people won't invest if they think the market is 20 houses. If they think it's 2,000 or 20,000, they will invest for real. And then the second key topic and phase we have is we have in the building sectors a lack of culture of investing in industrial solution. I mean, we use construction companies, that's also the market that is driven. They can think one project after another. They don't think solution and refurbishment to be product. What I mean is, when you have Renault, you're developing Clio, you expect to earn money after 1 million vehicle, and you hope to. You just know you're going to lose money on the first million you're going to do. But the way the price of the first Clio you sell is not 3.5 million vehicles, because that would cost if you could less.
So massification.
Massification, but there's different things. Massification is basically when you have a better solution, that costs you a lot because it's the first project. What price do you sell it to your customer? If you see the price of doing it only on 20 houses, it's crazy expensive. Nobody will buy it. But if you make, okay, it's so good that I'm going to sell 1,000 of them or 10,000 of them, and your price, what would be the average price at that point, that's very different. But it means you have the financial capacities to keep losing money when you sell the first 1,000 or the first 10,000. And basically when you're high-tech startups, investors are used and they have the culture that you lose money during 7 years and then it's cash machine. When you used to be a carpenter and you want your province company that were at 40 guys, and now you go to the bankers, oh, I'm doing differently, I'm going to lose money during 5 years and then it's going to be a jackpot. Okay, nobody's following you, because you're not reading your face, you're an IT startup company that is so fun and so cool. So also something in the whole ecosystem we have to combine, because after daring to be ambitious in the ambition what you're doing, you also dare to invest in a culture and in the sectors where it's culture of investment and losing money for a better market is not embedded. So that's definitely something we have also to drive. And the last point that is also interesting is, I think, dare to work a lot on the customer experience. That was mentioned previously, but that's absolutely essential. People, they think is, wow, it used to be something painful. I mean, other guys coming, that's full of dust, it's just pain in the ass. Having a refurbishment at home, it's not what we want. It was something which is so obvious, so easy to take place. Wow, you need to have a smile when it's done. So the approach we have in this energy spring movement in specification of market we're launching is to have, it must be done in 1 week maximum. And then, after 1 week works, that should be zero energy for 30 years. So part of the experience is really also to embed the topic that were mentioned previously. I mean, we want better quality housing, not only zero energy. Obviously, zero energy is ambitious, and we won't go at another topic. I mean, same thing, we're talking zero pesticides for organic, meaning what they sell is better lifestyle. I mean, that's definitely what we need to do. We need to do that people think they have better housing, because that will be a better housing. And because you will embed energy efficiency schemes along with improvements of other aspects of the housing. That might be, if you're in a health area more than 70, we're gonna adjust the housing for you to be able to still live at home after that age. So it's really this notion of improving customer experience, also on their assuming what's going on. Isn't all no, it's not my fault that the guy's dealing with the windows, I'm just in charge of the heating system, that's not my fault. No, that's not possible. You have something taking the responsibility for everything and that deliver a quality product. So, I mean, we think that's a key driver to make the market move. It proved to be a success in the Netherlands when they were able to cut the price of deep energy retrofit by 50% in 5 years. And what's the benefit of that? Is that any social housing association is able to pay this net zero retrofit housing without a single euro of subsidies. So what you want the market to run on is after only more than 1,000 houses, you have a market where zero subsidies needed, and you have something strong and ambitious. So of course that was not easy to reach that point. You have to change the habits, the way to do it, and yeah, we're trying to adapt this approach in France to convince people to jump in and voluntary approach. We had a first prototype delivered last week, and one of the guys delivering the prototype in the room, Frank. So more question, he'd be glad to tell you how uneasy that it was at some point, but how challenging and interesting that was. We have other projects online, and we have also colleagues trying the main job in the same job in UK. But I think that's one of the ways to do it.
So if you should compare the results in Holland, Netherlands, and France, what would you say? Try to compare them.
What's interesting is they started 5 years before we did. What's interesting is there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do what our friends in the Netherlands did. So of course there's difference because price of energy is not the same. The way we're structured, the human law is not the same. Price of finance is not the same. So we always complain, oh, it's so different elsewhere. Their difficulty we don't have. I mean, cost of finance is 2 times what we have in France. So we're lucky in a matter of cost of finance, social housing. Even if we don't realize that's the case, the other things, they don't have to apply to public tender law. That might, at some point, make things easier for themselves not to comply to that. But that also positive side in the way. So it's just different problems. So all what we have to do is adjust the spirit of it, which is really the heart, and to say, okay, there's things that have to be different because the Dutch culture is not the French culture, which is not the English culture, which is not the Italian culture. But obviously, there's the main lesson we have, and the key topic are the same. Dare to be ambitious, dare to invest, dare to care about this user experience, and the way to implement it will be obviously different in different cultural backgrounds, but there's no reason it shouldn't work.
Thank you. Emmanuel, from the Smart Building Alliance.
Yes, it has been long, but okay, I will try to make a sum up. First, may I present you Smart Building Alliance. It's an association I founded 5 years ago with a vision that digital will change drastically our view, our concept of buildings and cities. And we have to rethink the buildings and the cities based on digital. And today, Smart Building Alliance is a unique association, a unique organization in the world, linking all the players interested by the building and the city, starting from the component like STMicro, NXP, and so on, to the data collection like IBM, Microsoft, and so on. And in between, you have real estate company, you have banking, as insurance, real estate, facility management, and so on. So since 5 years, we've been thinking of how has to be the smart building and the smart city as to give services. At the beginning, we were thinking of just energy, and we noticed that energy was not sufficient to retrofit the buildings, and we thought first think the building as a platform of services, and what is the prerequisite for this, or it has to be. It took us three years, and last year we set up a label, a carte de référence, which will become a label this year, carried by Certiver in France and Serway in Europe. So this is how a connected and a communicating building has to be as platform of services. And I would say this is the first step we need to start everywhere, in every building, everywhere in the world. And this is very important what I say, and it's not because I want to push, but because I noticed in France, now most of the cities who are belonging to Smart Building Alliance are saying, we want our buildings ready to services. Most of real estate, property management and so on say, we know that in 3 years or 5 years, if our buildings are not digital, we are losing 30 to 50% of the value. 30 to 50% of the value. We're not speaking about energy, we are just speaking about the services the building has to give and what we are expecting. And first, it needs to be communicating and connected. We are today in connection with Belgium, with Luxembourg, with other companies, with other countries or other organizations in the world who say, what you have done, the French, is brilliant because you group all the players and you are in advance. Today, we are still in silo. We are still thinking lighting, HVAC, access control, security, and so on. And here you are just transversal. You are putting all together and you are just thinking how the smart building has to be. Which infrastructure, it is IP, of course, and what are the layers? We say there are 3 layers, the equipment, the infrastructure of communication, and the application in the cloud. And all this needs to be independent. Why independent? Because this is the basic condition for trust. For trust, because you say trust, of course. If I have an application now, in 2 years, I'm sure this application is out of order. No way. Look at I give you an example. Look at the taxi today. Does one taxi driver use his GPS? Who has seen that? Nobody. He's using Waze. And of course, he cannot download Waze on his GPS. So the car has lost value because he cannot download his Waze on his GPS. This is, and we say at Smart Building Alliance, the smart building doesn't have to be like the car of the taxi driver, not at all. So that means in 2 years, if the application is out of order, I can download a new application without changing the equipment, neither the infrastructure. That's the key condition to make buildings platform of services and have a reliable solution for the energy efficiency, but not only energy efficiency, but also all the other services. Then it means what? It means we just rely on digital. I would say there are 3 elements for digital. First is sharing. We share. And this means sharing is also sharing space, sharing buildings and services and so on. Then is pooling. Pooling, I say in French, partager. Mutualiser. So pooling is key elements. That means here I have motion sensor for HVAC. This motion sensor is also available for energy efficiency, for security, for access control and so on. This is not the case today. And as long as it is not the case, we will have problem for financing the services and energy efficiency. If I say I invest energy efficiency with this label ready to service, then I can pool this infrastructure, IP infrastructure, the equipment set up for other services, for space management, for health, for comfort, for access control, for lighting management, and so on and so on. This is the key issue. And I think today we have made something interesting. We are promoting that in France and also in Europe, and also worldwide, because in two months I will be in Canada to set up SBA in Canada for pushing that also. And as soon as we have ready to service, of course, it's a question of business model. And as soon as you have this infrastructure, then of course it's interest everybody. Banking, because then I rely, this building is ready to service, no problem, I invest, I finance it. So I will speak about service operator. Service operator will be the key players of the building tomorrow. Who will be, I don't know, maybe a promoter like a Bouygues, or a facility management like FNC, or utility like EDF or NG, or what else? It could be also Google, why not? But operator of services. And they will finance the infrastructure and then propose services, while just putting some devices or application for these services, but without reinventing all the infrastructure, because the infrastructure is there and most of the equipment can be used for other applications. That's what we are promoting. And I would say then, of course, we have to make some differences between application, if it is residential, retail, or commercial. But at the end, we are speaking about spaces and services around spaces. And I think then it's the most important thing.
Who is your primary target here? Who do you release this message to? Builders first, or when you go to Canada, for instance?
I will give it to investors,
okay,
because they have to invest in sustainable and scalable buildings. They need to have this trust. But I will give this message also to Montreal, to the city of Montreal, to have it in mind, and also to real estate. Also, yes, real estate. Today, I can tell you, in France, concerning real estate, you have already quite a lot of real estate who are now building buildings with ready to service. The first one were Bouygues, but now you have also Nexity, ICAD, and others. Yes.
Okay. We had that topic. We had that thing.
Yes, and here is just it's just a message saying I don't want to make opposition between systems and active and passive systems. Both are important. I just want to highlight, as soon as a system, you can deploy system within 10 years. I think you agree. Normally, within 10 years, we can deploy system in buildings. This is active system. And you afford, I would say, 25% energy saving, because it's just adapting the spaces, the energy production to the occupancy. And since most of the buildings are unoccupied 50% of the time, then it's mathematical. Then, of course, we need to retrofit also from outside to isolate. And this means this is another plan, which is long term or mid term, but we need to do it the same. But of course, we cannot do it in 10 years. It's difficult. I think it's maybe.
Sebastian, you want to react?
10 years, it's difficult to say.
You may
make the isolation of all the buildings in Europe. I think it will be a huge challenge. Isolation.
My point is we have to have something very efficient and let the market find what's the best mix of solution. So I just think that you won't do 100% energy efficiency, what I advocate for, with only passive or only active technologies. But I think there's real sense of mixing both and let every group of companies find whether the optimum is diminishing needs by 70% or by 80% or by 60% with insulation, and then for active efficient system by another 20%, and by local renewable energy production by another 20%. So for me, we have to be very stringent in the target and very open to the means of delivering it, because I mean there will be in years to come improvements both in active and passive systems that it's hard to acknowledge the time we are. So we have to be ambitious and let the market decide how to reach that target. But the value of what was said previously is, as we want a user experience that is incredibly high, definitely having quality of service is part of it. So I mean, we should think through how building remain efficient through time in the quality of service, and for me that makes a lot of sense, because we have to embed energy efficiency, the topic that we mentioned, in a global better value proposition for the people living in the building or working into the building, because in the end, a building is for happy people to be inside the building. It's just not for them to be efficient. So.
Yes, I just wanted to add, because I fully agree. Here what I want to highlight is, of course, use energy efficiency as system to deploy digital in every building for other services. That's my key message.
Right.
And also, just to add it looks very IT, but in the service we have, IT might be an enabler that is invisible in the end. Because we want the service to be delivered. Just an example. You have people in the neighborhood in the Netherlands where the retrofit were done, where we want to give feedbacks to people. So, are you efficient? Are you good? Are you doing things? But sometimes you have people age 75 getting the feedback. Are you giving them an app for them to get the feedback? They are not all of them connected. So what they just did is you have sensors taking the data, but what they do, they print postcards with that. And they receive, every grandma get a postcards in his house to say every month how good you're doing, what kind of advice he can give you. So basically it's through sensors and technology, but she doesn't see technology. In the end, she gets something she likes because it's the right way to address to her. So that's also what we have to be not too technological in the end results. That might be the mean to deliver it, but in the end, when we have to adjust the public we're targeting. And for sure, for guys age 25, yeah, numeric is a good way to interact. For some people, we have to write the right mix between IT, between human interaction, and to deliver the proper service.
Right.
Okay, one very quick question. How about security? With all this IoT,
I can answer because, of course, in a ready-to-service, security is highlighted. Security is very important and is one of the major points. We speak about connection, we speak about access of the data, about the network infrastructure, and of course security, and not only security of the cyber security, but also security of the data, so personal security. Of course, it's very important. But since you speak about that, I would like to highlight, and this will just underline what I'm saying. I know everywhere in Europe we want to push energy efficiency. Of course, as soon as you push energy efficiency with system, not with isolation, but with system, it's connected. But if it is not integrated in a label, so it brings where security of the data and cybersecurity is involved, there is a risk. There is a risk of European hackage. Hacking. At the European level, this is an information I got from for utility. The challenge is 2 gigawatts. If we have a shutdown or more power outage of 2 gigawatts in Europe, it's a shutdown for all Europe. Shutdown. What is this? This is 1 million of housing, or 10,000 of commercial buildings. That means this is a
Are you sure?
European issue. I'm sure. This is, I'm sure, I'm very sure, pretty sure. So I think it's urgent. It's really urgent, and that was the message I gave to Mr. de Normandie, and I asked him to give this message very straight to Mr. Hulot. You want to push energy efficiency in France, this is really important, but look, there is also the security thing. And you know, I think this security needs to really to be integrated at a European level.
Thank you very much.